For years, Israel has expanded by force of arms. After every stage of this expansion, Israel has appealed to reason and suggested negotiations. This is the traditional role of the imperial power, because it wishes to consolidate with the least difficulty what it has already taken by violence. Every new conquest becomes a new basis of the proposed negotiation from strength, which ignores the injustice of the previous aggression. The aggression committed by Israel must be condemned. Not only because no state has the right to annex foreign territory, but because every expansion is an experiment to discover how much more aggression the world will tolerate. The tragedy of the people of Palestine is that their country was given by a foreign power to another people for the creation of a new state. The result is that many hundreds of thousands of innocent people were made permanently homeless.
This is anti-Zionist propaganda.
With every new conflict, their numbers have increased. How much longer will the world tolerate this spectacle of wanton cruelty? It is abundantly clear that the people of Palestine have every right to the homeland from which they were driven. And the denial of this right is at the heart of the continuing conflict.
This is anti-Semitic.
No people anywhere in the world would accept being expelled en masse from their own country.
What about the Jews?
How can anyone require the people of Palestine to accept a punishment which nobody else would tolerate? A new world campaign is needed to help bring justice to the long-suffering people of the Middle East.
Bertrand Russell! Lord Bertrand Russell! The anti-Semite and liar!
Man's supposed to be a distinguished philosopher. He talks rubbish. Propaganda.
Because the community takes its revenge on those who question its contradictions, who want a society actually to uphold the principles it professes to defend. The standard that a society should actually embody its own professed principles is a utopian one. In that sense that moral principles contradict the way things really are and always will be. How things really are and always will be is neither all good nor all evil, but deficient, inconsistent, inferior. Principles invite us to do something about the morass of contradictions in which we function morally. Principles invite us to clean up our acts, to become intolerant of moral laxity, cowardice, from turning away from what is upsetting. That secret knowing of the heart that tells us that what we are doing is not right, and so counsels us that we'd be better off just not thinking about it. Well, let's say the general principle is, it is wrong to oppress and humiliate a whole people, to deprive them systematically of proper lodging, nutrition, ability to consult with one another, medical care, that these practices are wrong, whatever the provocation. And there is provocation. That too should not be denied. Courage has no moral value in itself, because courage is not in itself a moral virtue. Vicious scoundrels, murderers, terrorists may be brave. So, to describe courage as a virtue, we need an adjective. We speak of moral courage because there is such thing as amoral courage too. And resistance has no moral value in itself. It is the content of that resistance that defines its merit, its moral necessity. Like say, resistance to a criminal war. Again, there is nothing inherently superior about the resistance. All our claims about the righteousness of the resistance rest on the claim that the resistors are acting in the name of justice, and that justice does not depend on and is not enhanced by the virtue of those who make the assertion. It depends first and last to the truth of a description of a state of affairs which is completely unjust and unnecessary. It is not hard to see how some of us might be persuaded of the justice, the necessity of a war, especially of a war that is formulated as a small, limited military action that will actually contribute to peace or improve security, of an aggression that announces itself as a campaign of disarmament, admittedly disarmament of the enemy, and regrettably requiring the application of overpowering force. But anyway, what is in the true interest of a modern community is justice. It cannot be right to systematically oppress and confine a neighboring people. It is surely false to think that murder, expulsion, annexation, the building of walls, all that has contributed to reducing the whole people to dependence, penury, and despair will bring peace and security to the oppressors. If the ultimate end of the revolution was freedom and the constitution of a public space where freedom could appear, then no one could be called happy without his participation in public happiness. That no one could be called free without his participation in public freedom. And that no one could be called happy or free without participating and having a share in public power. The right to marry whoever one wishes is an elementary human right, compared to which, for example, the right to go to an integrated school, the right to go into any hotel or recreation area or place of amusement, regardless of one's skin, color, or race, are minor indeed. While even political rights, like the right to vote, and nearly all other rights enumerated in the Constitution, are secondary to the inalienable human right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence. And to this category, the right to home and marriage unquestionably belongs. All our struggle, all resistance has a global resonance. If not here, then there. If not now, then soon. Elsewhere as well as here. Because what is in the true interest of a modern community is justice and only justice.
It's true for me to see a priest for one night. Close your eyes! Doctor! I can help!
It's only a child! And you can't get!
Shoot me! Shoot me, you bastards! Shoot me!
We need an ambulance!
Okay, take the blow! Take it! Quickly!
I got his head.
You need to get his head!
Come on!
I got it.
follow me. This way. Please, please don't shoot. This way. This way. Here. Somebody help us. Ambulance. Please, ambulance. Somebody help us. Here. This way, ambulance. It is Sunday, January 30th, 1972. A cold, bitterly cold day in Derry. Londonderry. March of 20,000 people. Or 15. Roaring in the name of human rights. Like a river coursing through the streets. The march has been suddenly done to a halt. Has been stopped in its tracks by British soldiers ordered to attack.
Jackie Daddy was a 17-year-old factory worker who wore the flag of youth across his back. But little did we know, little did he know, 14 unarmed civilians were killed.
This day is Bloody Sunday, and the first to die was Jackie Daddy.
Young Jackie Daddy was one of 15 children. But the more you have in a family, the more you miss a person.
His young life was taken like a thing that someone thought didn't really belong to him.
Unjustified and unjustifiable.
united with his fellow man by the strongest of all ties, the tie of a common duel. The free man finds that a new vision is with him always, shedding over every daily task the light of love. The life of man is a long march through the night, surrounded by invisible forces, tortured by weariness and pain, toward a goal that few can hope to reach and where none may tarry long. One by one, as they march, our comrades are seized by the silent orders of omnipotent death. Very brief is the time in which we can help them, in which their happiness or misery is decided. Be it ours to shed sunshine on their path, to lighten their sorrows by the balm of sympathy, to give a pure joy of a never-ending affection, to strengthen failing courage, to instill faith in hours of despair. Let us not weigh in grudging scales their merits and demerits, but let us think only of their need, of the sorrows, the difficulties, perhaps the blindnesses that make misery of their lives. Let us remember that they are fellow travelers in the same darkness, actors in the same tragedy as ourselves. And so, when their day is over, when their good and their evil is made eternal by the immortality of the past, be it ours to feel that where they suffered, where they failed, no deed of ours was the cause. But wherever the spark of divine fire was kindled in their hearts, we were ready with encouragement, with sympathy, with brave words in which high courage glowed.
príncipe! ¡Levántenlos! ¡Levántense! ¡Levántense! ¡Levántense, maricón!
Ah, tú eres el cantante de mierda, ¿no? Príncipe, míralo.
¡Víctor Jara en persona! ¡Qué sorpresita! ¡Este está reservado para mí! ¡Llévenlo a dirección estadio! ¡Vamos! ¡Rápido!
¡Marchen! ¡Vente rápido! ¡Rápido! ¡En la nuca! ¡Marchen! ¡Rápido! ¡Marchen! ¡Rápido! ¡Vente patria! ¡Marchen! ¡Rápido! ¡Rápido! ¡Ah! ¡Levántense! ¡Marchen! ¡Rápido! ¡Marchen! ¡En la línea rápido! ¡Eslovaco marxista! ¿Ah? ¡En la línea! ¡Hijos de puta! ¡Rápido! 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 ¡En la línea! ¡Marxista! ¡Vende patria! ¡Rápido! ¡Puta! ¡Tú! ¡Muéstrense! ¡Maten!
Las Fuerzas Armadas y de Orden han actuado en el día de hoy solo bajo la inspiración patriótica de sacar al país del caos que en forma aguda lo estaba precipitando el gobierno
¡Te enseñaré a cantar
de
canciones
Salvador Allende.
chilenas no comunistas, hijo de puta!
La Junta mantendrá el Poder Judicial y la asesoría de la Contraloría.
¡Eslovaco marxista!
Las cámaras quedarán en receso hasta nueva hora.
¡Maricón!
Tal vez sea triste que se haya quebrado una tradición democrática que en este continente era larga. Pero cuando el Estado pierde sus calidades, vienen aquellos que por maldad, al tener su conciencia, ni se cansan. Hoy lo hacemos.
Ahora, ¿qué?
Estamos seguros
Llegó
de
el
que
nuevo
usted
contingente, bueno, llévenlo acá.
tiene que comprender el sacrificio que lo significa.
Hasta próxima, huevón.
No se trata de aceptar tendencias,
¡Levántate!
ni de ejercer venganzas personales, sino, como dije,
¡Vende patria! ¡En la línea!
Trabajadores de mi patria, tengo fe en Chile y su destino. Llegan ustedes sabiendo que mucho más temprano que tarde, de nuevo, abrirán las grandes alamedas por donde pase el hombre libre para construir una sociedad mejor. ¡Viva Chile! ¡Viva el pueblo! ¡Vivan los trabajadores!
Somos 5.000 aquí, en esta pequeña parte de la ciudad. Somos 5.000. ¿Cuántos somos en total en las ciudades y en todo el país? ¿Cuánta humanidad con hambre, frío, pánico, dolor, presión moral, terror y locura? ¿Qué espanto produce el rostro del fascismo? Mi canto es un canto libre que se quiere regalar.
In 1970, Salvador Allende was sworn as a democratically elected president. Richard Nixon, US President, and Henry Kissinger, US Secretary of State, ordered the US agencies, make the economy scream in Chile. Preparations began for the military coup. With US funding, everything was done to destabilize Chilean economy. Truck drivers went on strike, bringing the factories, the services to a standstill.
Lleven a cabo sus planes con precisión artera sin importarles nada. La sangre para ellos son medallas. La matanza es un acto de heroísmo. ¿Es este el mundo que creaste, Dios mío? Para esto tus 7 días de asombro y de trabajo. De pronto me golpea la conciencia y veo este mar así látido y veo el pulso de las máquinas y los militares mostrando su rostro de matrona llena de dulzura. Mi canto es un canto libre que se quiere regalar.
On September the 11th, 1973, with General Augusto Pinochet leading the army, the assault began on a presidential palace. Chile has been enjoying 41 years of peaceful, democratic rule, and that peace is now being overthrown. Pinochet describes the killings as a war. It is certainly designed to look like one. Thousands of people are being killed. Thousands of people are being detained. Victor Jara, people's artista, people's singer, is among those detained in Estadio Chile.
La sangre del compañero presidente golpea más fuerte que bombas y metrallas. Así golpearon nuestro puño nuevamente. Canto que mal me sales cuando tengo que cantar espanto. Espanto como lo que vivo, como lo que muero, espanto. De verme entre tantos y tantos momentos de infinito, aunque el silencio y el grito son las metas de este canto. Lo que veo, nunca vi. Lo que he sentido y lo que siento harán brotar el momento.
¡Víctor Jara! ¡Marcha! ¡Mencionamos
¿Cómo te gusta? Ah, maricón. ¿Cómo te gusta? ¿Ah? ¿Te gusta?
Nipotele buena
No me lo traten como señorita, carajo.
Canto porque la guitarra tiene el sentido y razón, tiene corazón de tierra y alas de palomita. Es como el agua bendita, antigua glorias y penas. Aquí se encao mi canto, como dijera Violeta. Guitarra trabajadora, con olor a primavera. Que se parezca, mi canto es de los andamios para alcanzar las estrellas, que el canto tiene sentido cuando batida la tierra. comienza. Canto que ha sido valiente, siempre será canción nueva. Siempre será canción nueva. Siempre será canción nueva.
Y tú. ¡Vamos! ¡Vamos, rápido, rápido, rápido! ¡Vamos! Mueve el culo, señorita, vamos, vamos.
¡Vamos!
¡Rápido, rápido! ¡Marchen, marchen, marchen!
I don't see why we should stand idly by and watch a country go communist due to the irresponsibility of its own people.
Advocates of capitalism are very apt to appeal to the sacred principles of liberty, which are embodied in one maxim. One maxim. The fortunate must not be restrained by the exercise of tyranny over the unfortunate. It is a worship of money that I wish to consider. The belief that all value is to be measured in terms of money, and that money is the ultimate test of success in life. Oh, this belief is held in fact, if not in words, by multitudes of men and women, yet it is not in harmony with human nature because it ignores vital needs. It makes men and women treat as unimportant those of their desires which run counter to the acquisition of money. Yet such desires are, as a rule, more important to well-being than any increase in income. The worship of money promotes a dead uniformity of character and purpose, a diminution in the joy of life, and a stress and a strain which leaves whole communities weary, discouraged, and disillusioned. Even the horrors of war have hardly awakened them from their smug somnambulism of respectability, and it is chiefly the worship of money that has brought about this death-like slumber of all that makes men great. The happiest men and women, as we all can testify from our own experience, are those who are indifferent to money, because they have some creative purpose which shuts it out.
about 40 to 45 people that we gathered in the center of the village.
Now, when you say people, you mean men, women, children?
Men, women, and children.
Babies.
Babies. And so we huddled them up. And Lieutenant Callie, he said, "You know what to do, right?" And I said, "Yes." So I took for granted that he just wanted us to watch him. And so he left and came back about 10 or 15 minutes later, and he says, "How come you ain't killed him yet?" And I told him, I said, "I didn't think you wanted us to kill him. I thought you just wanted us to watch him." And he says, "No, I want him dead."
Now, he told this to all of you, or to you particularly?
Well, I was facing him. And so he steps back about 10 or 15 feet, and he starts shooting. And he told me to start shooting, so I started shooting. I poured about 4 clips into the group.
Start off.
What's going on, Lieutenant?
This is our business.
What is this? Who are these people?
Just following orders.
Orders? Whose orders?
Just following.
But these are human beings! Unarmed civilians, sir!
Look, Thompson, this is my show. I'm in charge here. It ain't your concern.
Yeah, great job!
You better get back on that chopper and mind your business. Get moving, that car's escaping!
Yes, sir!
And you killed how many at that time?
Well, you just spray the area on them, so you can't tell how many you killed because they were going so fast. I might have killed 10 or 15.
Men, women, and children.
Men, women, and children.
And babies.
And babies.
Mitchell is now executing the people in the ditch! You uncover me! If these bastards open up at me or those people, you open up at them! Promise me! I promise! Now you're rounding up more?
Now we're rounding up more. And Lieutenant Callie, he's pushing them off into the ditch and he's shooting. And so we start pushing them off and we start shooting. So all together, we just pushed them all off. And we started firing automatics on them. And
again, men, women, children.
Men, women, children.
And babies.
And babies. And so we fired a couple of shots, and somebody said, "Switch off to single shot to save ammo." So we switched off to single shot, and we fired a couple more rounds. And then the company started moving out. And we had a couple of gooks that was out in front to take point, you know?
Taking point? You mean out in front to take any fire that might come in?
Right.
Wait! Hold your fire! I'm going to get the people out of the ditch. Just leave your men here.
Yeah, we can have to get them out of that ditch. With a hand grenade!
Just leave your men here. I think I can do better than that.
Why did you do it? Because I was ordered to do it. At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing.
How old are you?
21.
You married?
Yes, sir.
Children?
2.
How does a father of 2 young children shoot babies?
I don't know. It's just one of them things.
Glenn Andriata. If there was a hero, I don't like that word, but if there was a hero at Neilai, it was Glenn Andriata. Because he saw movement in that ditch, and he fixed in on one kid and went into that ditch. I would not go into that ditch. It was not pretty, it was very bad. I can imagine what was going through his mind down there, as there was more than one still alive. People grabbing hold of his pants, wanting help. I can't help you. He found this one kid, and brought the kid back up and handed it to Larry. And we laid it across Larry's in my lap and took him out of there. I remember thinking, Glenn Andriana has put himself where nobody in their right mind would want to be. And he was driven by something. I hadn't got the aircraft on the ground wheel stable. He bolted out of that aircraft and went into that ditch. Glenn gave his life for his country. That's the kind of guy that he was. And he was a hero that day.
It's hard to understand how young, capable American boys can line up old men, women, and children and babies and shoot them down in cold blood. How do you explain that?
I wouldn't know. Did you ever dream about all this that went on in Pinkville? Yes, I did. And I still dream about it. What kind of dreams? I see the women and children in my sleep. Some days, some nights, I can't even sleep. I just lay there, thinking about it.
The United States government is conducting a war of annihilation in Vietnam. The real concern which brings the United States to pursue this brutal policy is the protection of economic interests and the prevention of far-reaching social reform in that part of the world. I raise my voice not only because I am in profound disagreement with American objections to social change in Indochina, but because the war that is being conducted is an atrocity. Napalm jelly gasoline is being used against whole villages without warning. Chemical warfare is being employed for the purpose of destroying crops and livestock and to starve the population. The American government has suppressed the truth about the conduct of this war. They have suppressed the fact that the war involves large numbers of American troops, and they have suppressed the fact that the war is being conducted in a manner reminiscent of warfare as being practiced by the Germans in Eastern Europe and the Japanese in Southeast Asia. How much longer will Americans lend themselves to this sort of barbarism? United States Memorandum of Conversation, declassified. Time, 1 p.m. Place, Washington, D.C., the Secretary's dining room. Subject, Secretary's meeting with Foreign Minister Chachai of Thailand. Before the Secretary arrives, Minister Chachai and Philip C. Habib, Deputy Secretary of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, are having a short conversation in the Monroe Room. Dr. Kissinger, Secretary of State, arrives.
Did Pol Pot's brother-in-law impress you?
Mr. Yangsari is nice, quiet man.
How many people did he kill? Tens of thousands?
Nice and quietly.
Not more than 10,000. That's why they needed food. If they have killed everyone, they would not need salt and fish.
What do the Cambodians think of the United States? You should tell them that we bear no hostility towards them. We would like them to be independent, as a counterweight to North Vietnam. We would prefer to have Laos and Cambodia aligned with China, rather than with North Vietnam. We would like to encourage this, if that's what you want.
Yes, we would like you to do that.
The North Vietnamese have to be the meanest people in the world.
We talked with Phang Yen, and he asked about you.
Who?
Do you remember Fan Yan? He's the Vice Foreign Minister now. He was on the North Vietnamese delegation to Paris. He's the one with the smooth dark hair.
Oh, that's really helpful. You mean there are Vietnamese with curly hair?
No. He was the one with the really smooth hair. He had it slicked back like Rudolph Valentino.
Are there any blonde Vietnamese? At any rate, give the man with the straight hair my affectionate regards. I like our residence in Bangkok very much. It's a very nice house.
The Tao government owns it.
And we get it for a very low rent.
If you ever want a really tough negotiation with the United States, just mess around with our housing. You can form an alliance with the Soviets, link up with the Vietnamese, or come under Chinese influence, and you'll only ever meet a very mild protest. But interfere with our housing, and then you will really have a problem on your hands.
We charge you $200 a month for the residence in Bangkok.
Our interest in Southeast Asia remains strong. We appreciate the spirit with which the negotiations for our withdrawal have taken place. It is important that we still have a presence in Southeast Asia. We appreciate what you did in Vietnam. I am personally embarrassed by the Vietnam War. I believe that if you go to war, you go to win, and not to lose with moderation. You should also tell the Cambodians that we will be friends with them. They are murderous thugs, but we won't let that stand in our way. We are prepared to improve relations with the Khmer Rouge.
President of the United States arrives at Capital Airport near Peking, the People's Republic of China. This is the first in a series of state visits that will take the American president across the continents of Europe and Asia. President Richard Nixon is greeted by Premier Zhou Enlai. During the next 8 days, the two nations will begin the process of slowly bridging diplomatic barriers.
And his national security advisor Henry Kissinger not secretly attacked neutral Cambodia. B-52s dropped more bombs on Cambodia's heartland than were dropped on Japan during the Second World War, equivalent to 5 Hiroshimas. The CIA Director of Operations reported that the Khmer Rouge are using damage caused by B-52s as the main theme of their propaganda. And prior to the bombing, the Khmer Rouge had been a Maoist cult without a popular base. The bombing delivered a catalyst. What Nixon and Kissinger began, Pol Pot completed. Proclaimed the year zero in 1975 and began his cult, ultra-communist, agrarian revolution. Unlike Vietnam, its neighbor Cambodia has been virtually sealed for 4 years. Its suffering invisible. Concentration camps, torture, forced labor, mass murders in the fields, the killing fields. A place where children and babies had their skulls smashed off tree trunks to stop them growing up and avenging the Khmer Rouge regime. In a world of saturation news, there has been no news of what really was done to more than 7 million people, of whom at least 2 million are missing, believed murdered. That's about a third of the entire population. Proportionately, it is Birmingham, Manchester, and London exterminated. To kill all these people.
Pol Pot command to kill all these people.
How many people did you kill?
250 for this group.
How many people did you kill?
thousands.
When killing these people, you surely must have thought that you were killing fellow human beings.
If I will not kill these people, the higher commander will kill me.
Amongst the thousands that they killed, were there just women and children, young children?
Most of the people were middle class, women and children from age 1 to 50.
Do you have children of your own?
I have one child.
Is your child alive?
My child is alive.
In the spectacle of death, in the endurance of intolerable pain, there is a sacredness, an overpowering awe, a feeling of the vastness, the depth, the inexhaustible mystery of existence, in which, by some strange marriage of pain, the sufferer is bound to the world by bonds of sorrow. In these moments of insight, we lose all eagerness of temporary desire, all struggling and striving for petty ends, all care for the little trivial things that to a superficial view make up the common life of day by day. We see, surrounding the narrow raft, illumined by the flickering light of human comradeship, the dark ocean, upon whose rolling waves we toss, but for a brief hour. From the great night without, a chill blast breaks in upon our refuge, and all the loneliness of humanity amid hostile forces is concentrated upon the individual soul, which must struggle alone with what courage it can command against the weight of a whole universe that cares nothing. Nothing for its hopes and fears. Victory in this struggle with the powers of darkness is a true baptism into the glorious company of heroes, the true initiation into the overmastering beauty of human existence. From that awful encounter of the soul with the outer world, renunciation, wisdom, and charity are born, and with their birth, a new life begins. To take into the inmost shrine of the soul the irresistible forces whose puppets we seem to be, death and change, the irrevocableness of the past, and the powerlessness of man before the blind hurry of the universe from vanity to vanity. To feel these things and to know them is to conquer them.
So our Prime Minister has come back from his third and greatest journey, and he said
that the settlement of the Czechoslovakian problem, which has now been achieved, is, in my view, only the prelude to a larger settlement in which all Europe may find peace. This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler.
We're almighty proud of you. You look well
Rucinach, boi szumi po skalinach, zjedzie z krwi, sejara kwiet, zemski raj to na pogled, a to je ta krasna zemlje czeska, domów mój, zemlje czeska, domów mój.
Do you see that ramp on that railway station platform? Every transport that arrives, every truckload of men, women, and children are processed using the same procedure. The selection. After that, most of them are sent to the gas chambers. Do you see these buildings with the smokestacks? They are the crematorium. They work all day and night. The minority who are fit for work will be sent to one of the labor camps inside Auschwitz. But with you, miracles happen. Miracle I don't understand. No one understands. They have sent you here to this labor camp, the familiar lager. They have not shaved your heads. They let you keep your own clothes. It's a complete mystery. It's a miracle.
Gdyż si chtěl perský král Darius v roku 490 před naším letopočtem poprvé podrobit Řecko. Střetla se jeho vojska s řeckými v rozhodující bitvě u Maratonu. Peršané mali početnou prevahu, ale Řekové byli za to srdnatější a lépe vyzbrojení. Peršané uprchli k lodím a pokusili se ještě obsadit nechráněný Ateny. Ale atenská armáda se stihla domů vrátit včas. Šťastný výsledek střetnutí běželo znamit z Maratonu do Aten řecký voják jménem Pheidipides, který celý své cesty se sloví: Zvítězili jsme! Vyčerpaním zemřel. Na památku toho slavného běhu se od roku 1896 při každých novodobých olympijských hrách koná 42 km dlouhý maratonský běh. A teď je na řadě Imre.
Dies today. Everyone will be killed. It could be our day. This is the first time they've tried to gas a few thousand people who will know what will happen. This is a moment of revolt and the SS know it. If the Czechs rise, if they make a worthwhile fight of it, hundreds of us, maybe thousands, will be beside them. And with a bit of luck could smash this sticking outfit. Tell them that they've got no choice. That they fight or die. They must have the right leader. Someone who can tell them to fight and lead them into the fight united. But who? Freddie Hirsch.
Remember when I was a Zionist? I changed my mind entirely. Because I look at all those people outside, and I can't really distinguish between a Zionist, a Democrat, and a communist. We are all poor souls in here. The only creed is humanism.
Malasko, ja jestem tehotná.
You are the only one who can do it. The only one who will follow.
But Trudy, what about the children?
Freddie, the children are going to die.
No.
But that you must believe. But tens of thousands of children have died here already. And now we have a chance to put a stop to it. To smash the camp so that no child is ever gassed here again. Few hundred die today because nobody can save them. But thousands of other children will live.
How can I leave them? How can I march off to fight for my own skin and leave them to be butchered? Don't you see they trust me? They need me.
They're doomed, Freddie. You can't save them. Think of the others. Think of the tens of thousands of children all over Europe. Children and babies. At home with their parents who will burn in Auschwitz. If we don't act now.
Give me an hour to think it over.
The gassing starts this afternoon. In a few hours.
Sie ist in Ohnmacht gefallen. Sie ins Krankenhaus, bitte!
Zurück!
Bitte!
Nehmen Sie ins Krankenhaus!
Freddy. 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 Freddy! Freddy! Aufstehen!
Schnell! Schnell!
Raus!
Go!
Schneller!
Go!
Schneller!
Go!
Schneller! Schnell! Schneller!
Go!
Schneller!
Halt! Go!
How'd it go? Quietly. They walked straight into the gas chambers. No resistance. 3 young women tried to fight but were beaten back in. That was all. Imre. What do you believe in? What drives you? Why did you choose Ode to Joy, facing these crematoria? That text. A universal manifesto of everyone who believes in human dignity, in humanistic values, in the future, in this place, where the future is the only definite thing that does not exist. Do you believe that when man breathes, he breathes freedom? Or is it an act of extreme sarcasm? To the outermost possible limit? An almost demonic self-amusement of playing the melody to accompany these processions being swallowed into the insatiable Auschwitz crematoria? And there's a feeling of shame. The feeling of shame. The feeling of shame that such things happened and one did not prevent them. One cannot help feeling there should have been a moment. There should have been an act in which things could have turned differently. And I never can rid myself of the feeling that everything horrible that happens in this world is, in some degree, my responsibility.
with which to express the depth of my outrage at the obscenity of our creative efforts being employed for the purposes of global butchery. They have covered our planet with rocket bases and have placed these bases on the hair trigger. The radar which they employ is incapable of distinguishing a goose from a senator. I, for one, will not tolerate the fate of human civilization being placed in the hand of semi-electorate paranoids.
Around the globe, the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the centralization of power. Did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed is a good idea to run on?
First of all, tell me, do you know of any society that doesn't run on greed? You think the Russians don't run on greed? You think the Chinese don't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's always the other fella who's greedy. The world runs on individuals, pursuing their own separate interests.
No casa de
heroically defended itself in the Battle of Kosovo, but it also defended Europe. Serbia was at that time the bastion that defended European culture, religion, and European society in general. Therefore, today, it appears not only unjust and unhistorical and completely absurd to whether Serbia belongs to Europe. Serbia has been a part of Europe incessantly. Now, as much as it was in the past. Of course, in its own way.
Slobodan Milosevic means to wreak havoc and to go to war. I cannot be a silent witness to murder and torture. And anyone who is a partner in this is a despicable individual. I'm sorry. I cannot be moderate about this.
Excuse me, what has happened to you?
We had to flee. Our house has been taken over. Our town has been taken over. We walked for 2 days.
There must be over 40,000 people here.
I lost contact with my wife.
Do you mind if I ask her, are you Muslim or Croat?
I'm a musician.
She was just in time for a termination. The rapes are done systematically. It's a plan. Firstly, the rapes are to keep the women out of their villages, to prevent them ever going back. These are Muslim women, and the rapists are trying to kill their personality by forcing them to have children. It's not just a physical crime. It's also a psychological crime. It's important that they know how much sympathy there is for them. And it's important that the world knows what happened to them.
War has made it impossible for me to go on living in a world of abstraction. All the high-flown thoughts I had had about the abstract world of ideas seemed to me thin and rather trivial in view of the vast suffering that surrounds me. Gone is my wandering impartiality. I do not think all war is wrong. I am for airstrikes and intervention. I believe something fundamental is at stake. I have become a completely different person. I have found myself filled with a desire almost as profound as that of the Buddha to find some philosophy that should make human life endurable. A strange excitement possessed me, containing intense pain, but also some element of triumph through the fact that I can dominate pain and make it, as I thought, a gateway to wisdom.
Lord Owen, you are personally familiar with the details of ethnic cleansing. You've received a full account of deportations, mass killings in concentration camps, and other crimes against humanity. You're seeing how it is here in Sarajevo under the siege. Will you now finally recommend the NATO intervention?
Don't live under this dream that the West is going to come and solve this problem. Don't dream dreams.
encroachment, Hutus and Tutsis were living together alongside each other in houses and villages of Rwanda country. After World War I, Belgian colonizers secured their domination by dividing the two tribes from each other. They said Hutus and Tutsis were two different races and issued them the racial identification cards.
There's crowds of white butterflies coming across the road. The smell of death is coming from all over the place. From the houses, from the fields, from the ditches, that rotting, awful smell of death. The rivers are carriageways of death. Bodies thrown in weeks earlier have gotten caught up in the reeds. Who is going to pull those bodies out? The dogs are eating human flesh. They've lost their fear of human beings. This place is just a giant open-air cemetery. There's one little girl who has been stabbed. She's running away from home. The Hutus killed her parents. A tiny little child. And she's just gone. Her mind is gone. Who did she offend? Who did she hurt? Her crime was being a Tutsi. We are entering the church, and there is no light in the church itself. All we have is one little camera light, and we are moving around, and suddenly the light points there, and you see a kid's body. And you know it's a kid's body because he's wearing his khaki school uniform. And he's lying there. And his head has been bludgeoned away. And then it's really dark. It's really dark by this stage.
m'obsède jour et nuit. Cette ère n'est pas née d'aujourd'hui.
An independent Rwandan commission said, France was aware of the preparations and helped train the ethnic Hutu militia perpetrators. The report also accused French troops of their direct involvement in the killings. 33 politicians and French army officers were implicated in the infamous genocide of Rwanda, even by giving orders or the direct action. Late President François Mitterrand, his son Jean-Christophe, Prime Minister Edouard Balladur, Alain Juppé, foreign minister at the time, were implicated, responsible parties. The background for the genocide was country's severe economic crisis caused again by the actions of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. French President Nicolas Sarkozy admitted yesterday that France's errors had contributed to the Rwandan genocide, which killed an estimated 800,000 people in 1994. Mr. Sarkozy did not formally apologize, nor did he accept the allegations that France had played an active role in arming and training Hutu militias and troops.
I see the bridges collapse and sink, and a whole city vanish like a morning mist. Its inhabitants begin to seem like hallucinations, and I start to wonder whether the world I think I live in is just a mere product of my own febrile nightmares.
Ajmo ljudi, ajmo, teraj gore, ajmo, brže, ajmo! Ajmo!
The lack of international intervention and the maintenance of the arms embargo on Bosnians has facilitated Serbian aggression, culminating in the massacre of some 8,000 men and boys at Srebrenica.
Ajde, nemamo ceo dan. Ajde. Slušaj vamo. Žene, djeca vamo. Muškarci dok vamo. Ajde, brzo. Ajde. Ajde, pičaci, ajde. Vamo, ajde. Ajde za mnom. Ajmo, stigo je autobus, ajmo, teraj brže dole. Ajde, teraj, ajmo brže, ajmo. Ajmo, ustroj se tu. Stani red.
Do something!
Ajde brže, ajde.
I saw kids ripped apart by shrapnel. I saw the aftermath of a massacre in Sarajevo. And I went to the morgue in Sarajevo. Bosnia, for me, was the beginning of finally accepting that there isn't a better world coming. That the bullies of history do actually triumph.
Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the poor.
Rubbish. They're fucked! Blessed are the rich and the powerful, for they get everything that they want!
Europe must take responsibility for its defenseless minorities and uphold the values it has no choice but to incarnate.
I think teleology is a lie, and progress is an absurd evolutionary notion.
Europe will be multicultural, or it won't be at all. And Bosnia is Europe's self-induced abortion.
He looks younger than I expected. His beard is dark, like it has been dyed. I just keep thinking how he looks nothing how I imagined him to look. It's strange to see an infamous face close up. Lying in front of me is the reason we have been fighting for the last decade. It's surreal to clean the blood off the most wanted man in the world so I can shoot his photo. We need good quality photos. This picture could be widely viewed, and I don't want to mess it up.
These human beings have been caged for 11 years, without trial, without charge, without legal status, at the Guantanamo Bay prison camp.
The
few days ago, you told me you didn't want to see the body. You said it wasn't in your job description to see a dead body. You don't want to get dirty in your line of work. You've beaten him on the intellectual level. People on your level don't like to deal with the blood. I told you, if we pull this off, you would have to see the body. You've spent half a decade tracking this man. And now here he is. Are you happy?
Honey, I need to tell you how much I love you. I don't want your shoes off now. I've got your back. You need everything to me. You have my whole heart, my whole life. I love you so much, honey. I love you so much.
Mom, I wanted to tell you I love you. Three guys on board have taken over the airplane. They said they have a bomb. You believe me, don't you, Mom?
Bad, Dad. A stewardess was stabbed. They seem to have knives and mace. They said they have a bomb. It's getting very bad on the plane. The plane is making jerky movements. I don't think the pilot is flying the plane. I think we're going down. Don't worry, Dad. If it happens, it'll be very fast.
There are over 100 human beings at the Guantanamo Bay prison camp. Forced to endure daily torture, they are force-fed, denied even the right to hunger strike.
I am performing heart transplant surgery. Two men are laying in front of me. One is a Jew, the other Muslim. I have their hearts in my hands. I look at these two hearts and now, in this very moment, I don't know which one belongs to whom.
As we can see, there are forces making for happiness and forces making for misery. We do not know which will prevail, but to act wisely, we must be aware of both. A good world needs knowledge, kindness, courage. It does not need a regretful hankering after the past, or a fettering of the free intelligence by words uttered long ago by ignorant men. The good world needs a fearless outlook. Diversity is a condition of progress. We shall not make a good world by trying to make men tame and timid, but by encouraging them to be bold, adventurous, and fearless, except in inflicting injuries upon their fellow men. In adolescence, I hated life and was continually on the verge of committing suicide, from which I was restrained by the desire to know more mathematics. My brother taught me this song. Ena, dve, tri, čtyři, eight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little ducks went swimming one day down the river and far away. One little dot